Hi, this is John Rowell for the Rowell Report. Today is Thursday, September 25th, 2025, and we were all hit with a big news today about an urgent and rarely held meeting of top generals, advisors in person, not via web conferencing, and the meeting is going to take place in person in Virginia. Apparently, this is some urgent news or possibly the announcement of some upcoming conflict or deployment as far as particular parts of the planet go. So anyway, I looked at different possibilities of what this could be about, and the first thing is that if this was a routine matter, then they certainly would have handled it through their normal web conferencing, which is very secure and doesn't allow for um, being hacked. But the thing is, with the web conferencing, the general or key advisor, whoever's connected, could be in a location that um, off camera someone could be recording with a cell phone, or someone could listen in and hear the the content or part of the content of the discussion. So anyway, there seems to be something really urgent and important that can't be handled through web conferencing, and they need to take care of it in person. So I can't imagine that this is some kind of downsizing where they would be, letting half of the generals go and keeping the other half, or letting go a part of the staff. Um, as far as cuts go, they could always do that. That would be just a routine, that would just be some routine matter that would be handled with web conferencing. So anyway, this has really perked the interest of the news media community, and so here we have an image of Pete Hegseth and a comment that the Washington Post, on which this article is was published, states here this comment. None of the people that they spoke with uh, could recall a defense secretary ever ordering so many military generals and admirals to assemble in person. Some said it raises a security concern. I'm not too sure how that could be if they could secure the room. So, anyway, we have this meeting coming up. It's urgent. It's the top military people, and it's scaring some people as far as what could, are we going to announce a war? Are we going to announce an invasion? What's going on? So, anyway, my first thought, this could be something related to Russia, but I see here in an article by Defense News that, by the way, I'll put all the links below in the video description. So, in this Defense News outlet, it says that German defense boss urges prudence over airspace breaches by Russia. So they're already downplaying the airspace, possible airspace incursion of Russian MiGs into Estonian airspace. So this is looking already like this matter is going to be um, put into perspective, which they should have done in the beginning. Because if you see the narrow corridor that the planes have to go through between Estonia and Finland, it's very possible that at some point, because of incoming traffic or crossing traffic or planes that are coming through that corridor, that they had to give a certain distance, whatever this is expected for planes as they would meet somewhere in those narrow corridors. So that could have thrown them off. In any case, basically the German defense boss Pistorius said, no, it's not really such a big deal. So don't worry about it. And so this meeting that Pete Hegseth is calling. It looks like it has nothing to do with any European matter, and it doesn't sound like they're going to be sending additional forces to Europe. Of course, it could happen. Who knows? To beef up the military in Europe, expecting somehow that the Ukrainian military would collapse and the Russians would reach the Polish border. So anyway, so it looks like if anywhere on the planet is in discussion, it looks like it's not Europe. Plus, Europe has already too many troops there. They're overstaffed, so they don't need more troops sent to Europe. And we'll see that here shortly. This is in this outlet called Defense Priorities. The article is aligning global military posture with U.S. interests. So this is the whole process that Pete Hegseth is going through in the Pentagon and the Defense Department or Department of War, to align our resources with our interests. What happened is that after 9/11 and after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, a lot of decisions were made on deployments, and those troops are no longer needed in those areas, and so they are going to be aligning the our forces with our interests. And according to this article, the one of the four elements to analyze in order to determine our interests, one is preventing one of those criteria is preventing the rise of a rival regional hegemon in a key area. So in this article, it pointed out that China was a rising rival, um, to create competition with the United States in the Pacific. So this article points out that we have, after analyzing all the troop numbers in Europe, that they needed to cut that we need to cut 90,000 soldiers down to 60. There's already 30,000 too many, and it was over deployment after the Russian invasion. And it's obvious from the development of the Russia Ukraine conflict that Russia poses no threat, no immediate and midterm threat to Europe. So all these troops are totally unneeded. And then this article goes on to talk about the Middle East. And the point of this section is to remove surge forces and end the forever wars. So again, an overdeployment after 9/11 and the war in Iraq, and we need to continue to draw down forces from this area. Of course, it's hard to say what President Trump is going to do regarding both Iran, and now he's talking about returning to Afghanistan, to the Bagram Air Base, which is outside of Kabul. So if they were going to try to do that, they would have to come in guns blazing. They'd have to have plenty of troops to defend that. And eventually they would be pushed out again by the Taliban. It would be a double humiliation for the United States. So I don't really think that the US is interested in going back into Afghanistan. Although, again, I could be wrong, but I think the US had 20 years too much of Afghanistan, and they don't want to be there another day. So, so I think President Trump will continue to insist and push regarding recovering Bagram Air Base. The Taliban will continue to say no, 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 no. So anyway, but I don't think he's going to want to go in there all guns blazing. So really, the issues that we can see. Okay, so we're moving on here to try to continue to understand this story about Pete Hegseth calling this urgent meeting. So here we have Pete Hegseth speaking in front of a congressional committee, So anyway, and I um, got his comments here on a PDF, and we've already heard these comments before, but we should repeat them again to see what the U.S. is doing. Our strategy is one of common sense. This is coming from Pete Hegseth. Our NATO allies have the economic strength to deter Russia, and our own resources are increasingly strained. So he's saying NATO is more than enough to handle Russia. As we shift our focus to the Pacific, so pivoting away from Europe towards the Pacific, we are counting on our NATO allies to devote more resources to defense to forge a strong shield of deterrence in Europe. So the U.S. is pivoting to the Pacific. Now, is there any imminent danger in the Pacific that requires an increase of troops or, a massive buildup in the U.S. military? There really isn't. And so, um, could this be that the U.S. is interested in invading Taiwan? I don't think so because the U.S. has a strong presence there and they don't need to invade Taiwan. So we're really coming down to three scenarios as far as this urgent meeting. If we're talking about taking a war posture, so that really would be Venezuela, because we already have warships there, but we don't have the troops. And if we go into Venezuela, then you can be sure that China and Russia may try to provide some assistance. So they could be looking at those scenarios and what could happen in regarding China and Russia. The second possibility would be Iran, that President Trump wants to invade Iran. So that is a possibility. The third possibility, but very low, is the possibility of invading Afghanistan to take back the Bagram Air Base. But like I say, most American citizens had 20 years too much of Afghanistan, and I don't think anyone wants to be there another day. And and the only way that President Trump could take this airbase by force would be coming in all guns blazing, and they wouldn't be there very long. The Taliban would overrun them, and they would be, and we would suffer a second humiliation. So the real uh, and the biggest possibility from what Pete Hegseth is talking about is China. So, but why have to call an urgent meeting? Because if you're going to engage in a military conflict with China, that requires preparation time, resources, and in the analysis of the current U.S. deployment in the area, they have a lot of troops that are too close to China. So if we were to engage in a conflict with China, they would be sitting ducks. So the recommendation was to move them to Guam, but China also has Guam killer missiles, missiles that can reach Guam. So, um, would they be having to um, set up a new airbase further out, or maybe establish a strong presence in the Philippines? I would vote for the Philippines, just because the U.S. is um, was the de facto um, uh, hegemon over the Philippines for most of the Cold War, and the Philippines received their, quote unquote democracy pretty late, and it was rife with all kinds of issues. Um, so the U.S. pulled out um, at the end of the Cold War, and so they could be looking to create a new Cold War with China and return to the Philippines. So, anyway, like I say, it's hard to say. It's anyone's guess at this point what this urgent meeting is all about. But if it was some routine or administrative matter, they could certainly handle that through their regular email and their conferencing. If this was just an announcement about the results of the global strategic review of the Pentagon and bringing up to date the the military with U.S. priorities, then they could also communicate that through web conferencing. But the fact that they want to speak to everyone in person indicates that some plan is imminent, and so it's hard to say exactly where that is. But we do know that the Ayatollah in Iran said that they were not going to be cooperating and with the IAEA because they're not going to answer the threats. So it this could be related. I would say somewhere between Venezuela, Iran, and China. So it could be a short-term plan or a long-term plan. And again, if it's a long-term plan, why have to bring everyone in person? It's something they could send out through a confidential email, and they have shredders so they can print it, read it, shred it, whatever. But that is my thoughts on the matter for today. So thank you for joining me for this video. If you um, if you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe, share with friends, and your support helps to create more independent journalism, which I think is needed. So anyway, again, thank you for joining me for this video and have a good day. Bye bye.